gentlemen, welcome back to our coverage of the North American Summer Split. We're jumping right into the games with our first battle, Curse versus Team Dignitas. This is a matchup where both teams absolutely have something to prove.
Yeah, and Curse came out of Super Week with a lot of momentum and things were looking up for them. But last week they lost to the two bottom-ranked teams, and one of those was that 80-minute marathon loss to Complexity. They really have to pick themselves up and get the win back in themselves if they want to hold on to their playoff spot, Riv.
And for Dignitas, they are in a 4-game slump, as we were saying, and sitting the lowest they've been in the standings this split.
Yeah, I think Dig quickly became used to being on the top of the standings, and we heard a lot of that confidence in their interviews. But then last week, they had two huge losses. One to LMQ, which was in the fastest game of the split, and then to CLG the next day, which was also the second fastest game of that week. So they lost really badly last week. It was the first time as well that they haven't brushed off their losses. So they may be feeling a little bit shaken here. But we also have to keep in mind, this week they face two teams near the bottom of the standings, and their morale could benefit from an easier schedule.
All right, let's get right into this one and check out the starting lineups. On the blue side, it's going to be Curse's time. That means it's Quas in the top lane, dominating the jungle, Void Boy in mid, Cop at AD carry, discussing things with the team, and Expecial on support.
Yeah, and on the red side, it is Dignitas. Sound Spartan in the top lane, Crumbs in the jungle, Shifter in the mid lane, I'm a Cutie Pie on AD, and Cutie Kid on support.
Let's see if both teams can kind of break the long game barrier that we've been seeing. It really has happened with a variety of champions. There are a lot that are being pinpointed, but it just comes down to the fact that teams, again, haven't had that chance to play so far in the late game in a professional setting, and then it just becomes the you play to not lose situation, and that means nobody's going forward.
Yeah, and we also have to keep in mind, these teams are 1-1 against each other in their past games. And if we look at the teams' overall play styles, this is actually not a great matchup for Dignitas. Curse is actually a team who plays the early game quite well by and large and then makes a decent mistake. They actually have 15 first bloods in their 20 games they've played this split. And Dignitas is a team that's very bad at coming from behind in games.
Right.
They're the type of team that is also good early game, likes to run away with things. So this is actually, in the League of late game we're having, a game that might be decided early.
Such a vice versa between these two. Different things, things that match, things that don't. But everything that doesn't match really, like you're saying, is giving Curse the advantage within this matchup. Dignitas can't hold on to that early lead. That means they're going to be struggling pretty much throughout the entire game to make those plays happen. Seeing not too many mid lane bans themselves coming out from what we've seen. It's a very big variety here from the AD carry, jungle, and mid. Then on the right side for Dig, they're focused more on the mid lane.
Definitely a little bit of a mid lane focus. Last time they played, it was 3 jungle bans. We saw the Lee Sin, Elise, and Eve all banned away. And that was a game where I Will Dominate actually started 4-0 on Rengar. And it was Crumbs' Nocturne that ended up out-carrying. It was one of those jungle-centric games. But a Rengar ban comes in here, meaning Elise and Eve are still on the table. Lulu, of course, is a more priority pick.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, Lulu was banned 7 of the 8 NALCS games last week. A huge priority for these guys.
Even when Quas did get it, they did lose against Evil Geniuses in their matchup, so they're going to try to go for it again. Talking a little bit about Dominate's Rengar was also something that helped quite a bit at the beginning of the Curse Complexity match that went so long. He played it very well there as well. So Dignitas definitely doing their homework, making sure they hit the key components here on Champion Select. We'll see what they decide to pick out. Right now, just hovering really on something to hover as we wait.
Hovering for something to hover.
Hover, it is.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Blitzcrank has been picked a few times, but to little success.
First game.
Guess what? Time to talk about Nidalee. All right, so we have
That was
seen,
easy.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen one Nidalee game in the European LCS. That was by Freddy. However, in the North American Challenger scene, I'm talking about like solo queue, not the Challenger series.
Right.
Nidalee is probably the premier top laner right now as far as lane bullying goes.
Yes.
Maybe you pick Ragus against it to try and sustain through, but this is very much within Zion Spartan's wheelhouse. Bully the lane, try and get 1v1 kills, but most importantly, draw attention up to that top lane and make people come after you. Will be a huge thing for Zion Spartan.
So the ladies picked up an Elise and Nidalee on the side of Dignitas. And Braum is going to be the man so far locked in for Curse on support. We see Tristana being picked up for Cop, he's been kind of hedging towards Kog'Maw, towards those late game carries, and he does get the protection from his team already presented even in their picks, so it'll be a very good late game pick for them there.
Yeah, Braum is a champion who had excessively high pick and ban in last week. Same with Morgana, so those are just kind of traded support picks. You pick the Braum and then try and counter with the Morg to stop the passive stun from hitting. Not too much going on there. And a couple of hyper carries as far as 80 carries are concerned as well.
So, looks like we're getting the king and one of the queens of late game carry for 80 carries. Morgana picked up, like you said. Kiwi Kid can try to make some plays with that. Now we're going to see what Curtis can actually answer with, leaving Void always to round out the composition and give himself something that can counter or at least play comfortable and safe against the entire composition. Shifter also waiting for his pick. Somebody who's up to see if Void can kind of take over in lane. Most mid laners have had a chance to really have their way with Shifter.
Especially in lane is one thing. Void had a very good performance. We got to take a look at this though.
Yeah.
Something just happened.
Absolutely.
AP Tristana.
It is.
In the mid lane for Void. That definitely deserves a few cheers because it's something we have not seen in the LCS at all.
Nope.
All right.
It becomes somewhat of an assassin too once you get that power. You're in and out.
A few things we have to touch on about AP Tristana.
Yeah.
In mid lane, it's actually an incredibly strong laner. Mid laners generally cannot sustain themselves. And Explosive Shot, the active on it, does 110 damage at rank 1, which is pretty much the highest damaging level 1 ability that is reliable in League of Legends in the game. Also, one of the things that led to Tristana's relevance as an AD carry was that the ultimate scales with the attack range in the game and all those other great things. So it's a very smooth combo now for the AP Tristana. And it's like we're over in Europe all of a sudden because Xerath is making his way into the North American LCS as well. Try and stay away from that Trist.
Adapt and react. We see it happening from Dignitas now. Xerath comes out for Shifter as he's been hovering the Syndra. And like picks of Orianna and the rest, TF, Ziggs, but not this time. Ziggs not even banned out this game, but he decides to go for the Xerath for the safe play, the long range, and it works with the rest of the team. They have some immense poke coming out of the side of Dignitas, so they have to remember to keep that mindset going.
Yeah, we were expecting this. We were expecting this AP Tristana. And obviously Void can still be changing his rune pages up until now, but as of the 20-second mark in this champion select, that is looking to be like an attack damage Trist in the mid lane. Throw you for a bigger loop. Just trying to shove the lane up with Trist, maybe do an early static shift, do the Wraith camps like we've seen Roberts Tristana swap up in the mid lane.
Interesting.
And then they'd have a double AD carry late game with a Lulu support. I'm not really sure what's happening.
Well, let's do a quick check-in on the voting over at LOLesports.com. We may have seen this before. Right now, Dignitas is leading with 70%, but that can all change.
Yeah, you can also vote on Twitter by sending the hashtag CRSWin or the hashtag DIGWin to the @LOLesports Twitter account. And based on the variety in these picks, just vote for what you want.
Yeah.
Do you like Xerath? Do you like mid lane Tristana? Do you want to go mid with 80 carries? Do you want to see it succeed in the world? It's all this trickle down. You see it happen in pro play, and suddenly it's acceptable in solo queue. I remember first time you see like a top lane in Italy. That's a bad example. There are things that happen in the LCS that then becomes acceptable.
Here's this. Now, I can't remember what game it happened in, but there was the AP top and an AD mid. And after they got whatever leads that they wanted, they swapped those lanes because those lanes were trying to mitigate AP or AD, and then you had an even bigger advantage on those lanes. So they also have that option, and I wouldn't put it past Curse to try something like that.
Well, Void has started with the boots right there, and you can see he has no ability power at level 1, which would be incredibly unlikely if he were to go AP Trist. So the mind games could be large here. The fact that he has heal and not ignite would also tip off Dignitas that he is not an AP Tristana. I bet you he may have won the Rune War with Shifter, though. I'll check very shortly for that to see if Shifter didn't bring any armor. You can see right there, Shifter sitting on 20 armor, so he was not expecting an AD carry in the mid lane. He was expecting an AP Tristana.
This is going to be quite rough for Dignitas. I'm sure there's much communication happening now, at least, that Crumbs may have to be looking a little bit more towards mid so they don't abuse the early damage that would be coming in from that.
And this is my favorite thing about just League of Legends and the LCS Riv, is this is the same patch that the North American LCS was being played on last week. But it's a matter of time that players can try things out, experiment, and then bring out in the North American LCS, especially since both these teams are on decent losing streaks, Dignitas 4, Curse 2. They're both kind of pressed to make a change and try new things.
Yeah.
Tristana mid, Xerath is something Shifter hasn't played. Zion is now available in the LCS as well, which is another change. But it's all about having time to adapt, and that's a big thing that they're doing here.
Well, actually, we're going to lock right into what Dignitas had to say after they saw that Tristana pick. Let's listen in.
Is he really doing Trist mid?
Oh, no, it could be Trist top.
I think it's just mid.
But it's Trist mid. He's been practicing Trist.
So
Just as much confusion as us there.
a little bit of homework there. They did know that he's practicing it, so they're waiting. But was he practicing AP and now running the AD still? There's the variation there. We'll have to see. Starting off this game already very interesting coming into week 9. We see some variety out of North America, taken after the Xerath from Europe. And a little bit of play here. We see Tristan in mid for Voyboy. It's going to be interesting.
I've actually had some discussions with Kobe about maybe why we're seeing more Xerath. And one of the big things is we're just seeing champions fight each other with increasingly longer and longer ranges. And Xerath is pretty much the maximum range you can get with how far his ultimate is. You can't get any farther range than Xerath mid, so that's what Dignitas is doing. It fits Shifter, the guy who likes to sit in the back of team fights.
Absolutely.
And just poke through damage.
Sit in the back. There's kind of the variation of what mid laners like on hits, what mid laners like skill shots, and Shifter's a skill shot kind of guy, so Xerath falls right into that wheelhouse for him. He should be hitting most of everything, we'll say right now.
Pretty good pick against Trist, honestly.
Yeah.
Very difficult for Voyboy to get into engagement range of Shifter. So that explosive shot harass will be really hard for Voyboy to land.
It was funny. We were talking about a little in listening to Dignitas, but it seemed that since these picks happened and teams were just coordinating off a champion select, there were really no deep wards. Nobody wanted to invade. Everybody was like, all right, we're starting with this strat. That's what we had in mind, not to invade. So even with this, they're kind of holding steady. They didn't want to try too much.
Yeah, all this fun stuff in mid lane. We haven't even talked about Nidalee so far. So Zion Spark, Doran's Blade start. You can see he's also going
That's true.
AD Nidalee, just looking for the split push. A lot of traps in that top lane as well to maybe just make it more difficult for Dominate to venture up towards that top lane. Zion definitely going to try and push Quas in a little bit. These top laners, just aside from the champions, do have very distinctive styles.
Yeah.
Zion's the type who really just wants to one-on-one and create as much pressure as possible, whereas Cop definitely seems like the type of guy who just wants to stay safe above everything else so he can have a team fight impact. That's why we saw Quas with 0 deaths in an 80-minute game last week.
Playing very safe, but also having an impact. Something we actually heard recently coming from an interview where Shifter also doesn't die as much, but does he have a big impact? It's kind of like he plays almost a little too safe. Maybe the range of Xerath will come in on that play, but we will have to see what comes out of that Nidalee and Lulu lane.
We're going to have to track the CS in the mid lane
as well.
Shifter as well, because we were looking
down
at the numbers over the week. Obviously, Shifter, highest KDA in the North American LCS. Fewest deaths for a mid laner. But as far as his laning is concerned, it is by far the weakness in his game. For some context, we track a lot of average CS at 10 minutes amongst mid laners. Xiao is the highest in the LCS of everyone with 85 CS at 10 on average.
On average, yeah.
Shifter's sitting around 73, which isn't actually a very damning stat. It's the fact that Shifter's opponents average 85, which is the same as Xiao average in a given game. So pretty much everyone laning against Shifter gets the CS average of the best mid laner in the North American LCS, because Shifter doesn't actually pressure against his opponent's CS very well at all.
Right, being pushed into the turret right now, kind of indicative of that Tristana play, so it's going to be a little tougher for him in these early games. We can already see almost get a 20 CS lead right now, and Voyboy is going to feel very strong about this play. We all know he is someone who will go in and out of the fight without any fear. He was hovering on that Akali, and I can see him playing this Triss somewhat just like it if he gets enough power in the game above everybody.
Voyboy used to love playing solo lane Ezreal as well, way back in the day.
That's right.
And especially being a top laner transplant into the mid lane, he is the type of person
little aggression
who can just fit in with different style of champions in the mid lane. Honestly, his mid lane instincts aren't the same as the other mid laners because he has been there for a much briefer amount of time than the other North American LCS mid laners. But Tristana, as far as adapting, puts him more on an even playing field because who lanes against an 80 Trist in the mid lane?
Yeah, and it's incredibly hard to gank too. You haven't seen Crumbs even try to put a finger on the mid lane. Voidboy's just going to be hopping right out of there. But then again, Dominate hasn't been pushing anything either. Both teams do have that champion set for a late game, especially with what Voidboy's bringing in the AD department. So they're going to go ahead and just stay steady.
The amount of damage that Curse will be able to put out in the late game is rather absurd. As long as they can stay safe, it'll be really tricky, right? Double 80 carries that are very squishy. If Shifter gets fed, those 80 carries are just going to get blown up by the long-range artillery shots of Xerath. So if Shifter gets going, it'll be a spectacular move. They're trying to catch out Deck Special here, though. Shoot it!
Oh, they almost getting it. Throw down a ward. I feel like they had the movement at the time, and it would have been a good counter game from Dominate. He was hovering as well. So we get a ping in the mid lane. Looks like it's time for the Blues is what they're pinging.
Yeah, Shifter just farming away. They can see him taking the blue, so they know exactly where he'll be coming back in with that nice, deeply placed ward. You can see Voidboy starting his way towards a static shiv as well, but Avarice Blade just for even more farming.
Right.
It gives him almost no immediate strength, but he can do this because Shifter really isn't providing any type of harassment on Voidboy. He is freely farming in this lane.
You see a lot of Tristanas do that, from Robert X. Lee to Vasily in the bottom lane, or really when we started seeing her for extra gold, and then pop the static shiv, and you have full control over the lane push.
Check the wards there.
Crumbs a little early on this, but he still will have help from the Spiders and the rest of Dignitas in the bottom lane. So, Special, good thinking. They'll at least have the timer on this.
Yeah, and a nice move down by Shifter as well, just to have more people in the Dragon area. That will cost him about half a wave of minions. Yeah. And it was also because Voidboy, with just the Avarice Blade, he doesn't have any kill pressure. It was a very smart move by Dignitas as a team to force an objective right there.
It's one of the things about having Trist mid. It's not that big of a threat either. Towards the early part of the game, not much is going to come from it. Dominate, getting to see now. Crumbs should be all right here. A little bit of hover from Shifter as well, but it looks like it's Voidboy hovering first.
Jeez,
and they
no
could
help
2v1
for Crumbs.
here. No.
Unbelievable right there. That not only did no one go up for Dominate when he helped the pink ward, Crumbs was just all alone on his buff. No Nidalee collapse, no Xerath collapse, and then Crumbs, instead of running away immediately, waited until it could be stolen away from him. Just a pressure disadvantage from Dig. No lane was able to assist.
I can see Shifter not wanting to roam. He's got a nice juicy new blue on him that he doesn't want to give up, but Zion had full reset lane in the middle on siege minions. He could have gone. We'll see if they can make up for a bit of that. Dominate getting himself under the skin of Dig here around 9 minutes. That's all they have so far, not a huge lead. Zion Spartan though, you can see him getting his 1v1s back and forth. Takes a turret shot to the face as he gets a little too aggressive and actually loses out on that trade.
Yeah, that Nidalee versus Lulu matchup will be very interesting to track through here. They're kind of just two big-time lane bulls. There's no one to stop that special from getting that ward. Just two big-time lane bullies.
Yeah.
Kind of maybe canceling each other out a little bit, and then it will all be about who can have the greater impact. One really curious thing there is Voidboy went back to base just to buy a pink ward. He wasn't low on health or mana. He really didn't need to go back at that point. But now with the red buff, I wonder if he's going to be trying to make a move. He's sitting on a lot of potential gold there. He's still on 800. Couldn't complete a static shift. Didn't finish any components of his Z.
Right.
Just stocked up on health potions and got that pink ward.
Game even across the board.
We can see her at the 10-minute mark, and they're around averages, right?
Yep.
Voidboy has 88 right now. Shifter's around 73. So again,
just
he loses by 10 about every game.
See if the map pressure can be made up here. Dominate now using Crumbs' red to come in from the backside and throw down the Agony's Embrace, and they're going to take that red and they're going to give it over. Kiwi Kid goes down, but the kill goes to top. Very nice job getting the 80 carry going.
Yeah, it actually seemed like they could have chased after AmaCutiePie, but they burned the flash and then decided to kill Kiwi Kid, so they'll get AmaCutiePie on the next game. most likely. A very immobile AD carry, and Kog'Maw probably the most vulnerable once his flash is down. So a double win there for that Curse gank. Again,
yeah.
Curse picks up first blood. That's now 16 of the 21 games this split in the LCS that they have gotten that.
And it's really good thinking by them. We see Voidboy pushing in Shifter in the mid lane. Quas has Zion somewhat on the run. They're having enough fights. So go affect a lane that could be big in the late game. Affect I'm a Cutie Pie and Kiwi Kid, and that's what Dominate did. Good moves by Curse to get themselves ahead. 11 minutes 30 on the clock right now. See a lot of quiet time for these two in the top lane. And Zion Spartan's just making sure he's safe. You can see he's trying to get that lane a bit frozen so he doesn't get too close to the turret. Spectral picked up over by Crumbs. A little bit of spike in damage here as now they're going to try to push back, especially in Cop, so they can't get anything out of that kill. Didn't work too well.
Interesting move there by Crumbs. He's really not even attempted to aid his solo lanes this game. Yet he's not farming at an amazing pace either. He did secure the one dragon for Dig. He's a jungler who's been struggling a fair bit lately. He loves to play that supportive style of jungle, which when you fall behind leads to some very poor looking games, and it looks fantastic when you're ahead. Definitely trying to tunnel this bottom lane ahead this match. And it is giving them the turret and the dragon, so his attention spent has given them an edge in this sector of the map.
Gonna keep an eye on how they keep Cutie Pie farming here.
Yeah.
It's gonna be difficult now with him out a turret. He might be having to share with other lanes. Let's just see how that goes and stealing up camps, because like we said, Crumb's behind as well. He's gonna have to start feeding even more to the outside.
The static shiv rush on Voidboy, exactly what we've seen from Robert X. Lee's bot lane Tristana. This time on the mid lane with Voidboy, he'll be able to take mid lane. Enemy Wraiths, as they're going up to now, his own Wraith camps. Going to be a whole bunch of CS they're getting through the Voidboy here.
And you can see Shifter, not really forced, but he is still going for the Athenes. He wants to get that in there, and then he will get his armor, but he's trying to bypass it early and get to that as soon as possible. Hasn't hurt him. He hasn't gone down for it just yet, but he's playing very, very safe. And we see that blue once again.
Ooh, 2 in a row. On Voidboy, getting him a little bit low.
Yep, that blue is really going to start coming in big. Here comes the skill shot prowess that Shifter loves to be playing. This is when he would be throwing out all the bombs. Let's see. He's got his regen, and I guess the magic resistance, if you will. But it's not helping out so much. That's a great sound. It's a new like favorite sound.
Shield break,
blocking things. It's nice. Not so much the jacks on a turret, but you know, you get what you wish for you. Moving.
You can see they're hoping to catch Shifter while he's shoving the lanes. At this point, they're both such wave clear machines that they're pretty much just trading 6 CS per wave. The big thing is about the dragon respawn here. That's why Eve and Trist were looking for those openings. They were trying to clear out potential pink wards. They didn't catch that ward on the outside. Now an even more obvious ward, but Crumbs has been a long ways away for the dragon respawn. A missed timing for sure by Dignitas right there. Crumbs just not timing his recalls adequately.
Very nicely done, Curse, to take back the second dragon. We've seen a lot of times that they would be the risk-averse team, not really wanting to try for it, saying we're all right with what we're doing, and those are okay to go by the wayside. And towards the late game, that'll hurt. Zion Spartan, a little back and forth with Quas in the top lane. Oh, Voidboy goes in. I don't think he used this. He did use his ultimate. It got repelled. Crumbs tries to get out on that one. Dominate goes in. The lockup from Shifter. Dominate's going hard on this, and he just gets dropped down. Shifter's ultimate from close range. 1-for-1 back and forth. What a fight.
How does Shifter use Jareth's ultimate? Point blank. But he gets the kill on I Will Dominate right there. The repel is what created the window, so Death for Crumbs creates a kill for Shifter, and since Cutie Pie's in that mid lane, maybe the mid turret as well.
Very close. Cutie Pie hasn't really focused any shots. A nice dodge on the Glacial Fisher for the Void Puppy. He stays nice and safe. Dignitas answer back a little bit there. Very nice.
It's going to be a tough one to hold, though, especially with all the ranged poke and just stuff Dignitas throws onto the map. Voidboy can't get in range to auto-attack with units.
Do they have siege? Yes, they do.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Dignitas' composition, it's almost a perfect poke comp.
Yeah.
Zion Spartan will still have spears if he does decide to group up with this team. Nearly impossible to catch. Xerath is the absolute largest siege mage you can get in the game. Kog'Maw with his ultimate as well. Incredibly long-range poke. Like, they are built to siege up if they can get into that phase.
And I love that usually you'd see Janna back in the day. I love the use of Morgana now. A lot more power, a lot more control for the team to continue the fight, not disengage. And Kiwi Kid, he'll get mobility boots and want to flash in and engage a fight. We've heard him in the all chats. It's always great to have it on an impact player like himself. Also, Zion Spartan, he's going to be building up the Triforce first, so we're getting double Triforce.
He's a little bit low, but it's hard to kill in Italy. We just want to delay.
Yep. Good delay. Teleport's up. They'll be able to get back to lane quite quick. But yeah, they're going to get the turret with 3 up top. Nice juke by Cop, but double flash. But Kiwi Kid preemptively sees it coming. Just on the outside, Crumbs was not there. Looks like he wants to go under. He actually gets Cop to blow the Summoner heal as well. So this is going to be working out quite well for them.
It's a grid as well on the big rocket.
I'm sure he would want that red buff, but unfortunately, Crumbs repels away with it. They do get top turret for all that runaround, though.
Yeah, out of sync right there. Yep. Kiwi Kid burning everything to try and get Cop down. Meanwhile, the farm continues. Curse playing a big-time farm game right here, hoping that that double AD is enough in the late game. It's really going to depend on how well Dignitas can land these poke shots. The Xerath is a fantastic pick against the double AD as far as keeping them out of range. But if they ever have a window of weakness, and I Will Dominate can get a flank around behind them, Dignitas' defenses are going to get completely shredded through. They have 5 squishy champions. You can see 2 Trinity Forces. There's not a tank item in sight.
Right.
Like aggressive build for
wasn't building armor.
Not going for the Ancient Golem, instead going for the damaging Elise build. They're setting up their glass cannons, that's for sure.
As long as they don't make that one risky play that really puts them behind. We've seen even Skara after game say, did you guys feel you were that far behind? Was that the play that needed to be made? So maybe Dignitas has righted those wrongs that they made in the past. Not going to have a history repeat itself scenario. Shifter gets back to blue. He's had that instantly every time. Still down about 15 CS in the mid lane, but now it comes to those poke game initiations we've been seeing. That CS difference isn't really what's going to cut it in these fights. It's about if they can hit the skill shots. We already saw Void Headstrong dive into that Wraith area and try to get a kill onto Crumb, so we'd probably do that in even a bigger fight with Quas's Wild Growth to help him out. We'll see actually split push from Void now.
Yeah, that's what the Static Shiv will do.
Yep.
Cop is the AD carry of the team for now. Void will be a bigger AD carry later. They have 2 resetting AD carries in a sense. So if fights start going Curse's way, they will definitely be able to
That's
finish.
a good call. I didn't even think of that.
Get excited, plus
scary.
the rocket jump. And they're both farming very well. They'll both hit their items. It's just a matter of time, and especially Curse, a team that's been going to late game so much, says, why don't we just pick a couple of hyper carries?
Yep.
Well, because the other team has a 5,000 range mage that can kill them both. We'll see.
We see Crumbs going straight for that Haunting Guy second. We heard Dexter previously talking about that, giving the health you want and the penetration you'd get from rushing the Sork Pen Boots. So getting that in there for a little bit of his safety, but these guys still very squishy, as we were saying before, throughout their current builds. 42 seconds on Dragon. This is going to be great pressure from Dignitas. Hope to blow a few summoners or alts here to make that a better contest for the objective.
Hit that pink ward. This is very important for Dig. How they can set up around this Dragon, how much split push pressure Zion can create, and whether or not Dignitas can land poke as Curse funnels towards the Dragon Pit. This next Dragon will have a substantial impact on the overall gold value of this game. Dignitas not getting any poke down while Curse is clearing wards is a small loss in time. This Vision battlefield is something Dignitas can only hold through poke, because if something can sneak past them and get initiation, they're done for.
And they have it everywhere. Usually you'd be waiting for your Nidalee here, and then the other team wouldn't do Dragon because you can just keep throwing spears, but they can throw everything they want. Cocoons, Dark Bindings. And
getting a siege team
throwing it out.
Dragon is the easiest way to get collapsed on. However, Zion is trying to create a 5v4. This is a dangerous take by Dig.
Yeah.
They do not want to corner themselves in the Dragon Pit. They are
good vision.
trying to collapse in on Curse here. If they can land enough poke, it'll be an advantage. This has got to be a fight.
Cop and Voyboy in the buddy system right now. That's going to be a lot of damage if they can start opening up. They are going to start on Crumbs. He gets hit a few times. Zion Spartan dives in, but he misses everything and gets an instant exhaust. Very well played.
Whoa.
There's Voyboy going aggressive. A few shots, not a crit. Come off though.
Where's the
Zap
ult?
with the vision. Gets it repelled, and it also goes past Zion Spartan in the bottom lane. Voyboy now is going to hit up too much. The flash attack coming in from Shifter, but he misses. Summoner heals are still up on both sides to be used now. Shifter's holding on to his, but it looks like both teams back up, and Dominate grabs the dragon.
I gotta say, I would hate to be our camera operator in this game with all the monstrous 2,000 or 3,000 range skill shots shooting around. It's so difficult to follow. Nobody dies in that fight because both teams are very long range and squishy. A missed initiation by X Special, a dodged rocket by Crumbs to prevent the resets. If that thing hits, all hell would have broken loose for Dignitas because they would have gotten chased down. But Curse gets the dragon at the end of the day and a small edge.
Curse picking themselves up, put themselves in the lead after such an even game throughout the lanes. The rotation down from Zion Spartan there was thwarted by the teleport in from Quas. So we'll see if Dig can make a play off of that now behind in gold. We said once Dig falls behind, that recuperation process becomes very difficult.
It is a tricky thing for Dignitas. They are not the type of team to come from behind. However, Curse's weakness as a team as well has been making those
going for a little
critical mistakes and then just falling downhill after that. But this is kind of the game you would expect from Curse versus Dignitas. Even though Dig is a team at the higher end of the standings, we mentioned before the game, it's not a good matchup for them. Because Curse is a type of team that gets a lot of first bloods, creates a lot of early game edges. And Dignitas is usually the team that needs to be winning the whole game in order to win the game.
Such a big Lulu now. The Morello Namicon and the Athene's finish. It's going to be shutting down that Primal Surge that Zion's going to be healing his team with. Very nice play there, as well as keeping Quas a nice split push controller against Zion Spartan. Level 14 to 13 in those lanes, but they'll probably stay quite even as they trade CS back and forth. And the pink ward of pink wards. That's all right.
It's not very
That one
helpful
just
thing.
fell out of his pocket. There was a hole. He didn't mean to place that.
It will be tricky for these guys to be getting farm in this game because we're in one of those very rare situations where every outer turret in the game is down, but no one actually holds a pressure advantage on the map.
Right. Gotta get forward wards in.
So you gotta be very cautious about where you go, and the warding becomes even more important. Look at all the unspent wards in the inventory of Dignitas. A lot of sight wards built up. They're trying to get their position in, but because they are that poke comp, it has to be very slowly and carefully. If they walk in to a brush that is not warded, immediately Curse closes into combat range and would be able to capitalize.
Looks like Dignitas is trying to get something out of this forward push. They're not going to leave here without
They want
at
to
least
set up a
getting
siege.
turret. Yeah.
Zion is split pushing very well against Quas. You can see in those side lanes he has been slowly whittling down the battles. It doesn't show in CS, but just on the average position of where Zion is in the lane, he has a lot more pressure on the map. And this is exactly what Dig wants to do with the rest of their siege comp, is land some Xerath shots, get some Bioarcane barrages in. And if a Dark Binding lands on a low target, it should mean death.
Wouldn't be
Exactly
surprised.
stuff like that. A few more of those and Dig gets that mid turret.
They play this perfectly. Both AD carries are waiting on just the same amount of time for their summer heal. Cop would love to have that, but without an engage, he can safely walk back to the turret. He'll be able to come back. No home guards for anybody just yet, so these attacks do buy Dignitas a little bit of time, but they just don't have the wave yet to pursue that turret. Zion Spartan giving Quas hell in the bottom lane rather. Neither of them are getting anywhere.
Trying to take little small chunks of the turret. Dignitas trying to take bigger chunks of this mid turret.
There we go.
Curse just can't get healthy. Look at all this stuff that Voyboy has to dodge around. They're trying to engage, but they're pretty low for this.
Oh, it did not seem like everybody was on the same page for that one, but it did also seemed like Dominate just wanted them to disengage with the way that Chris did follow up then.
Rule 1A of playing against a poke comp, though, is never let them set up a siege.
Right.
Because as soon as they get one person low, you're always in this constant catch-up of someone being in base and a 3v4. While you're waiting in base, another person gets chunked down, and you get another 3v4. And that's what we saw right there. They came back, Boy was at half health, which meant the follow-up of the initiation would have been fatal. And the turret goes to Dick.
Little damage onto Cop. They take the turret down. Zion Spartan has proved useful in the bottom lane. He's only about 10 CS behind Quas right now. Those two would love to start participating in these fights. We'll see if they get there once the AD carries start getting their finalized items. Still quite far behind here at 26 minutes. It seems like it's been a bit of a fast game in map movement, but things that players are gaining and going back and buying. Usually we see 2 or 3 items per carry. Not this game. Very slow and weighted.
Not the kills you would be used to seeing.
Right.
But it's these long-range artillery shots that Dignitas has, as well as just a really close fight at Dragon that very easily could have turned bloody. Speaking of which, 40 seconds and the ward control begins once again. Very eerie river for these guys.
Yeah.
Any corner they go around could be a dark binding and death.
Summoners are up on both sides.
Oh. Fancy feet.
The amount of stun that comes out of both Shifter and then Kiwi Kid, and then you can hit Dyke Cocoon is absolutely amazing. And it could really, if you didn't get a TF, or Xerath, I figure you could get a TF in this as well and just keep it going. Start initiating with that. So many possibilities for the comp with this much long range.
Curse looking to force. They're hoping that they don't get poked down during this, because if they get hit by a few too many shots, they will be done for. But if they can get a clean initiation now, they might have an edge.
Oh, nothing from Xpecial. Not even the exhaust is there to be used. This is going to be Dignitas getting a catch that they wanted, and you can see what the consecutive crowd control looks like when they lock it down. This, all right, goes over.
Death cap on a Shifter and not a shred of magic resist on Xpecial. That's what happens against this super long-range comp from Dig. Die before you can do a thing, if you get caught out. They need a Locket of the Iron Solari from probably I Will Dominate on this team.
Okay, great idea. Could definitely thwart off a Xerath ultimate or even a finalizing Living Artillery. Curse trying to gain back a bit of their jungle. Dignitas doing what they needed to pull themselves back into the lead. Both teams wavering a bit, so really not in anybody's favor all just at this time. Got the first outer set of turrets down, and then it seems like they can't get past it. Dignitas very patient on being able to set up that kind of siege poke we just saw, even though they Curse let them do it. Let's see if they can get that back towards the top side of Baron.
It's just going to be so tricky for Curse.
How do you beat that composition?
You have to find flanks at this point. You either have to split push them, which is hard because Zion Spartan is probably the best split pusher. But you need I Will Dominate to find sneaky areas and Xpecial to somehow land an ultimate on anyone. Really, if it's Kog'Maw or Xerath, you're pretty much okay with it because of how quickly they would die. As far as defensive itemization goes, Dignitas can't build defensive itemization. They're all trying to do damage from their glass cannons.
Yeah. Gonna make for very interesting fights when a few shots will kill everybody on the map from these AD carries. Not quite to that point just yet. When these teams have played, the times have been 32-48 and 32-30. 18 seconds apart for these game wins. Curse has taken one and Dig has taken one.
Couple of fast games. This one will probably be a little longer.
Yeah.
The way this game is unfolded in front of us. Still thinking about how fast Xpecial died there. That's gonna make Curse very, very scared of where
they're wary.
where Dominate is. He's hoping that he's in position. He actually is right now to get it close.
That's one. Can they get the buster shot out? Is the flash coming in? The Fisher misses everything. Special's now caught up in the Soul Shackle. Boy is able to take down Kiwi Kid, but the AD and the AP are still on the move. Cutie Pie tries to fire back. Kathy in surprise comes out. Shifter again using the close range ultimate of his on Xerath because everybody's in his face. Comp fires into Zion Spartan, but he's got enough to take it.
They have a double AD carry right now, but they are very low. Zion
going to try to turn the game around. Oh my God.
Oh man. This is scary.
They have about 1,000 HP between themselves, or just a bit more. Zion Spartan can definitely get food for dinner on this one if he can start going hard. He hits one. A great chompers right across the entryway towards the blue buff of Curse, and it looks like Baron is stopped. Zion Spartan coming up big on the solo objective.
Yeah, that fight was exactly what Curse wanted. It wasn't perfect in execution, but it's exactly the type of play.
In the end, absolutely.
In the end, and you saw it. As soon as they could close on Dignitas, Dignitas immediately tried to run away and couldn't deal damage while running away. Therefore, just had no tank presence, and the reset started to come in for Voyboy and Cop, which was deadly for Dig.
What an awesome game coming in for everybody to go Soul, Glass, Cannon, pretty much Quas and dominate here, trying to put a little bit of defense on themselves, but that's just in their natural build. We also see Kiwi Kid coming out with the Zanyas, trying to make plays as well. Void Staff completed by Crumbs, even more Glass Cannon, trying to get the kills immediately. And it looks like it's going to be time for that Baron. 2 minutes on Dragon, they're going to be here dancing for a while. Looks like Quas is going to have to go down and consider Zion Spartan in the bottom lane. None of them have teleport though, so this could be a 4v4.
Absolutely. It's the fear of Owl dominate. It's really if he can get the flanks on. Like right now, Dig is actually caught in a pretty dangerous spot.
They're so big.
They're trying to get the initiation on Dom, but they're getting flanked in.
Oh!
Kiwi burns everything.
Kicked in the mouth. That not good. Oh, they got Vision. He pulls the Vision over. Can Shifter hit the stun? He got the stun. That's the max range, which means it's the longest time. Dominate goes down. He had no idea. He couldn't move.
The chase continues too.
Locking down the living artillery.
Blue buff.
Give me a fourth one. He's not in range. Oh my God, they get locked up even more. Still trying to go for the fight. You see the repel come up, but Crumbs couldn't match anything, and he couldn't fall back down on an opponent, which really stopped the engage coming in there from Dignitas. But they are picking up so much ground. Little catches here. Now turning towards Baron, 32 minutes in.
Yeah, and they're so low. Curse is so low for this, despite not having jungle pressure. Initiation is going to be tough. Where's Special's ultimate? Let's watch.
Whoa! He has to jump it out. Zion Spartan's going for Voyboy. He flashes over the wall. That leaves Zion now apart from the fight. They're trying to spread Curse thin and all of the commotion now. A real struggle here for Curse as they regain control of what's going on and stop Baron. But they need to make a move after this.
What a stressful game. All of Dignitas going back to base. They took a little bit too much. And the double 80 carries plus Lulu are pushing them in.
Man.
Try and get some objectives
The attack speed increase, just passive, coming from Jinx, and then the rapid fire from Voyboy. Turrets don't stand a chance.
No, that's pretty much the two best attack speed boosts in the game for 80 carries. Those guys are the ultimate turret killers. And guess what? Gold's even. Play the Baron game again.
Back to even Stevens. What a game. I like it. Week 9 starting off very well.
Dragon is up. There is an edge here because Voyboy could hop in the back of the Dragon Pit, take it down without too much risk, but that would open up Curse for a little bit of poke. It's just a matter of whether Vision Control is bluffed out by Curse. If they pretend like they have 5 people behind them, control will be much higher.
Shifter once again picking up the blue. Attack range increase coming into play here for Voyboy. Level 16 on Tristana. Curse is going to safely move away from Dragon. More gold in their favor. A bit of a lead, but we've seen those leads quickly just turn back in Dignitas' favor with a quick fight.
Yeah. This game is very interesting. You can see teleports down in top laners. They're actually doing the split push game again. Full magic pen build from Crumbs. So
yeah,
he honestly
still
has a lot of burst for himself if he can catch the right target. He hasn't cared about being tanky at all because a one-man spider tank doesn't do too much for them. But honestly, that's like 2 or 3 shots from 80 carry at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, before he was repelling out things. Now it's not gonna. Oh, Special gets locked up just at the end. That's the dark binding as well. Special could get hit. They hit Braum again. One of the biggest safety members for these AD carries. If they can get him, they can pretty much walk anywhere.
It's just too much artillery for Curse to deal with. They got that one fight because Dominate made it into a clever spot, but if we're looking at advantages, Dignitas has so many of them. Again though, that squishy team at Baron, a lot of damage to alive for Curse. It's a matter of if Dignitas can catch them as they come in.
Gonna be shots still coming in. They're kind of stuck inside the pit. They have to be there for Dominate right away. The Summoner Heal comes off. They're still trying to take down Baron. 5,200 HP on it, 4,300 now. It's going down quite quickly, but now Baron's starting to heal 1 for 1 on each side, and Kiwi Kid limps away.
And oh, by the way, Quas just killed Zion Spartan while all that was happening, so that's kind of cool. Curse did hold that off because the poke of them was still enough. The zap by Cop got them low enough. The Kiwi Kid had to back away, and they weren't willing to risk the get it sighted / rocket jump resets. There's so many squishy things in this game that the fights are just remarkably swingy. Notice how neither AD carry went last Whisper because they know nobody on Dignitas is going to be building armor.
You quickly hit tab and you figured, I love that ward, by the way, that you hit tab and you see the fact that nobody has armor in this game. And you're going to be able to pretty much change it with 1 or 2 shots. If it's a crit, make it 2 shots.
Jeez, look at the damage Voyboy takes. As the teleport gets burned, that's huge. Zion still has his teleport. Quas does not. That could very well swing this game. That exact interaction right there.
Cutie Pie low on mana isn't the worst thing in the world, but definitely hurts a lot of potential of Kog'Maw, so we'll see if they can get him all healed up before they push on to anything. Home Guard's still not coming out yet. All the money in the game, no matter what, is going into damage right now. These guys are full force, balls to the wall. Bloodthirster picked up by Voyboy so he can keep a bit of safety because these fights, they are going a little bit longer than usual.
Yeah, Voyboy's been the one getting poked down the most.
Yeah.
So trying to get that little bit of pre-shield. As long as he remains in combat. Uh-oh. All right. They're rushing it down. They got to see that one.
Oh my gosh.
They're just daring Crumbs to come in for a steal. That's not really a game they want to be playing against a poke comp like this.
They don't even have to enter pit. Look how much damage they can do from the outside.
They're trying to force the teleport from Zion, and imagine
2,500
poke in doing so.
2,600 on Baron, and they back off. Curse teasing Dignitas now, trying to dispute this Baron.
This is just the most dangerous game that Curse could be playing, all to get Zion Spartan's teleport out. They succeeded. I feel like Zion actually came in a little preemptively, but yeah, the Baron was at 2,600. Crumbs could have stolen. He's on Elise. That's a very real possibility.
Oh, that's one shot. That was almost a bad spot to be in, but you see the shield help. Whoa, Cutie Pie coming in with late game Kog'Maw. 2 shots, half health Voyboy. He can still sustain himself back up. He's going to be the one to take it. He said, let me shoot these. I need to live. Dignitas is going to back up. They're going to give Curse a little bit of breathing room, but we're just going right back to Baron. It's not going to be any waiting.
You do not want to tango without Cutie Pie's Kog'Maw in close quarters. He's a scary, scary man right there. Voyboy thought to take him on, quickly thought better of it. Really, as soon as one of these teams gets a couple kills, the Baron is maybe not even taken, if I'm thinking about it. If Curse can get 3 or 4 kills, they would just win the game with how quickly they can push with Jinx and Trist if they're alive at the end of this.
Yeah. Interesting to see how Dominate will be able to find ways into these fights. Dignitas, they're not the ones really trying to push that Baron down. We saw them doing on Dragon, but like you said, putting themselves in such a tight spot is really bad news bears, because they're going to get jumped on. Level 15 for Dominate, same as Crumbs, but he's also starting to get a bit more tank on his build, so he can make those impact plays. They may catch Dignitas in a bad spot here.
Yeah, shifter off. No teleport for Zion. They see exactly where he is, which makes them want to rush this Baron. It does still open them up for a whole bunch of poke. This Baron goes down remarkably quickly, though. How quickly can Dignitas make it? And Shifter's not even in range. It's got to be a steal attempt for Crumbs. He's going in.
He already going to Spider Form. He does not get it. Quas throws a glitter lance right through Baron. They say spike it right now, so he cannot 7 to 5 in 40 minutes.
Oh, they got
Curtis
shifter.
is starting to move through. The red buff hits. He flashes. Oh, the rocket hits
This could be
over the
game.
shoulder of Boy. They're going to keep going. Kiwi Kid's going down. They're going to have eyes on the Nexus after this chase. There's so much health on Zion Spartan. They need to turn around and go for the base.
They
so
could
much
just
chase
win
coming out right now.
If they
Curtis
just push
stops it.
the mid lane, they spend about 5 seconds too long in that bottom lane. Let's see if they can still push this up right now. 40 seconds, 25 seconds, 30 seconds on the death timers. How much damage can they do to these turrets?
They have Quas and they have Boy, or rather they have Cop moving in with Boy. All the attack speed.
This is just a wrecking crew of turret destruction. Curse might take down Dig.
This is going to be very hard. Cutie Pie can make the right shots. They're not trying to shut him down. A lot of damage going on to Dominate and Special. Eyes on the Nexus turrets. 3 seconds for Crumbs. It's not going to be enough. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Curse drops Dignitas at 40 minutes.
What an unusual game right there. Curse, the mid lane AD Tristana, the team of AD carries and range damage and resets, gets a couple of them against Dignitas of all teams. Dig tried the poke comp, they tried to change things up, but they got collapsed on a few too many times. They got rushed down at the end. Zion did not have his teleport. And that makes it 5 games in a row where Dignitas has been on the losing side.
Curse doing a very good job of keeping their jungle clear. Dignitas, we saw what happened when they had the chance to set up that engage right in mid lane on the second tier turret. It looked bad for Curse. It's like if they do this at every turret, Dignitas is going to walk on through to the win. But Curse was in their jungle, clearing those wards, so the fear of Dominate coming from anywhere was there. They never were able to execute it, but that pressure they created just off the ball was really what helped them to continue pushing out to Baron. And then the one time you catch the team out, like you said, are they going to go for Baron or are they going to go for the win?
Well, they had the Baron, and they just went for the win.
Right.
But you could see how easily it was accomplished by all their AD carries.
Yeah.
I think the most remarkable thing for me in this game is despite how many close escapes we saw with Xerath bombs lobbing down on Voyboy the whole time, is that both of their AD carries were deathless. It was 105 on Voyboy, 205 on the Cop. And they come away with the victory. Huge way to bounce back from that last week where they lost to both EG and Complexity.
Great safety from Quas on that Lulu and special on Braum. Very good play protecting your AD carries across the map. So to hear what the pros thought of that match, let's send it down to Kobe.
All right, thank you, Riv. I'm here with Voyboy after their win. Of course, we first have to ask you about this Tristana pick. You guys have been practicing it a lot. What is your favorite part about AD Tristana in the mid lane?
I really like Tristana just because it's a champion that can be really aggressive and you can just like go full out and just like carry a team fight really hard. Like originally when I was watching Vasily play Tristana, I would just see him like rocket jump into like 5 people and I was like, wow, that's like exactly how I like to play AD. And I was like, maybe I could pull it off mid. And I just started trying in solo queue. It worked out really well. Started playing it in scrims and stuff and just brought it to LCS and I think it worked out quite well for us. So happy with the pick.
Yeah, it definitely worked out this game. How crucial is the Braum pick, or how much do you have to build the whole rest of the team around a double AD pick if you want to run Tristana in mid?
So Tristana is pretty versatile. I think building a team comp like the one we had can open up the abilities of, like, for example, a double AD comp is really good at kiting. Like you're not gonna go out full engage. Like you're not trying to wombo. You're just trying to kill the same targets. Try to kill people in the front. And if people ever get in range, in your range of aggression, in both AD carries auto attack range, you can just melt them. So I think our picks just help facilitate the strength of our comp.
And playing against Xerath, we're probably going to be seeing a lot more Xerath nowadays. Pretty popular all over the world. How does it change your game when you guys are facing all these champions with increased range? And how does it change it when there's so much increased importance on these skill shots that are going to be landing?
Yeah, so their poke was really strong. Xerath is a really good pick now. I would expect to see him constantly throughout this week. But we were getting poked down for a bit. Once we got some MR, once we started getting some sustain, it became easier to deal with. Once me and Cop had a decent amount of lifesteal, even though Shifter was hitting a bunch of Qs and he was trying to like ult for harass and stuff like that, we would just lifesteal it back up and then we'd look to fight while those cooldowns were down. So it ended up being fine. It was a little shaky in the mid game, but once it got late, we just took over.
All right, and our last question is about the Nidalee in the top lane, because we haven't seen that in North America yet. What was Quas's communication with you guys about handling that Nidalee in the top lane? Because so many top laners have been complaining about how much of a bully she is, but Quas handled her very, very well.
Yeah, so People have been playing a lot in Italy and NA mostly. I think it's just a champion we should expect to see a lot more. And it's something that we actually got a decent amount of practice against. So originally, it was like, man, this champion is just crazy. Like, what do we do? But then as Quas played against him more, I think he learned how to deal with it. So I think we've got it on lock now.
Well, he's definitely a boon for your team then. Thank you, Voyboy, and congratulations once again. We are now going to send it over to the analyst desk for another discussion on the game.
Thanks, Kobe. Now we want to welcome Aiden Zyrene Moon to the desk to help us break down Curse's win. Now that's a win for Curse after a pretty underwhelming showing last weekend. Is this us kind of watching them take the reins back and get back into their groove going into the end of the season, I guess?
Yeah, I think they have. It's been the season for Curse the entire time. Like, they're always almost good enough to be a top team. They've had so many games, even at the very beginning, where they would almost beat all the guys in the top 4. Their losses last week is just sort of more of Curse being Curse. It's like, hey, sometimes they just don't show up quite right. Sometimes they just kind of screw things up. But, like, I expect to see more of that 3-1 super weak Curse. Like, they have the players to do that. They have the shot calling to do that. They have the right sort of teamwork and mindset to do that. And it's just kind of like which one shows up, and it's really up to them. Like, you can't predict their week-to-week results. It's up to how they play in a given day.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's how they play on that given day, and they innovated today. They brought that AD carry Tristan in the mid lane. Voyboy had been playing it a little bit on his stream, got a little glimpse of how good it was in that mid lane. And Quas, he played at AP top, so it's kind of one of those things where you don't know where it's going to go if they are innovating. Turns out it's mid lane, and they crushed with it. And it's on the other team to react to that and come up with a battle plan mid-champion select.
All right, well, to that point of innovation, we saw a couple other champions make their first showing. Yeah. Whereas Nidalee, I wouldn't consider being her first showing, but the reworked Nidalee, as well as the Xerath, Freak, talk to me a little bit about those choices by Dig.
Sure. So I really liked what Dignitas had set up here because Nidalee is like the premier lane bully right now. She's like the new Renekton, basically, and that fits Dig's style really well, where they can say, Zion, go do things by yourself, go create pressure. He did have a couple of misplays. That solo death to Lulu was really bad, but by and large, this is a good thing for teams like Dignitas who can rely on the individual play on one side. The Xerath also, and I know Jack talked about this as well, fits Shifter perfectly. I expect to see him play more of this champion. Xerath is sort of like the new Nidalee as far as mid laners are concerned, where it's like, do you like playing poke champs? Great, here's a poke champ who attacks from very, very far away. The difficulty being that he doesn't have the same escape tools in Nidalee, so you can actually punish this.
All right, Zyrene, so when we have a bunch of these poke champions in the game like this, we saw some early bullying going on with the Tristana against the Xerath, but then when we got to team fights, it was just like a basic standoff. So what is the cause of that, and what's the solution to actually getting into a battle?
Well, I told you it's on the other team to counter it at champion select. They had no hard engage. Xpecial was really their only ticket into that fight for Curse. And they end up getting it a couple times, and those were very key points. But another thing that I actually want to jump back a little bit to Freak's answer there, because you talked about the Nidalee. I didn't like the Nidalee in this game. I felt like Zion Spartan was playing a split push game, and against double AD carries Tristana Jinx, they will fast push a base faster than you can split push because of their Qs and their attack speed increases. Also, Zion Spartan built fully split push, Blade of the Ruined King, Trinity Force, not a single armor item on him. He didn't want to be involved in these fights against AD carries, which made it so that he couldn't show up. He couldn't be a force to be reckoned with, and he would have just been destroyed. We saw it in the very last fight, too, where he was a non-factor and just ran away and gave up the base.
Absolutely. And we'll take another look at a replay, the final Baron fight, where we'll watch those two AD carries burn down that Baron. Doesn't give any time to respond. Freak, go ahead and walk me through this one.
Yeah, so the cool thing about this is Curse have actually done this, and they had no wards in this, but somehow this was the exact time that Shifter is taking his blue buff on the other side of the map. So Dig has no way to contest this fight whatsoever. They shouldn't even try once they realize it's this low. The steal attempt, I understand. It's a fine. It's a 50-50 for Crumbs, and if he gets it, it's great. But the rest shouldn't be limping in. So if we play this fight out, it's Crumbs dying for free, obviously, and then like Kiwi Kid's like there by himself waiting for his team to show up, but they have a guaranteed 4-on-5, and the problem is you have a team with a bunch of resets, 3 of them actually on every assist, and so they just jump in for kill after kill after kill. And again, it's another situation where just Dig shouldn't be here.
Yeah, there's a ton of chase potential here on the side of Curse. So is the solution here, obviously, like you said, the steal is fine. You give up the Baron. Keep Zion in that bot lane, because that's one of the impetuses for them going for the Baron to start, was they saw Zion in the bottom lane.
Yeah, it's really difficult to sort of play around this. Like, both teams have this weird, like, if you lose vision, you're super screwed. Because we saw things in the random mid-game. There was the 4th dragon that went down. Xpecial didn't see a cocoon come out, and he just dropped. He can't. His stun, so he can't put the Unbreakable up. He just dies to all the siege, all the poke damage. He will just immediately drop as the main tank on the team. Same thing for Dignitas, though. If you don't see the enemy team, double-AD carry, Baron dies in 4 seconds. And you, out of nowhere, like, you've just lost your entire way to play this game. Or if you don't see Evelynn, she flanks you, and your entirely squishy siege-based team falls apart. And, well, Curse had the situation where they didn't see him go for Baron, and suddenly it's gone.
All right, another question regarding the Xerath, because it's such a new champion. We've seen it a few times in EU and NA. We're watching the middle lane evolve. We're watching the top lane evolve with Lulu and Kayle and Nidalee coming out in the top lane, things like that. What do the other lanes need to do now to kind of catch up in evolution? How are we going to see those lanes change the other lanes? Zyrene?
Oh, we just saw a little bit of that here with the Tristana. Against this double AD composition, like I said, you can't split push. It's going to force you to pick something that's a better team fighter, better hard engage type champion that can deal with this heavy damage. And man, the builds from Dignitas is something I want to touch on too, because, oh man, no real stacking of defensive stats at all. When you see one fed Tristana, you're kind of like, all right, we need armor. Even if it's just one armor threat. They went with Crumb's full magic penetration build there. He didn't have a single defensive item in his inventory. And then Zion Spartan, same thing. So these types of roles, you need to adapt your build, and then that will sometimes affect what is a good build on this champion, and can we take that build to a different champion. When Sightstone was something that was seen in the jungle, it was like, oh, Nunu's really good with that item. Let's start playing Nunu jungle. So these things are types of evolutions that change the dynamic. And you talked about top lane. Gragas top, huge bully in the top lane. You can win it, and then that causes spillover into other lanes. And then how do you deal with that? Because this thing right here with the Tristana, you're not going to roam. We saw no roams to side lanes, which means you can play bigger lane bullies bottom and just win the lane solo if you're just going to have somebody pushing mid. So there's a whole big dynamic, and each lane isn't really its own microcosm, but if it is, it affects other lanes at the same time.
Yeah, I actually want to get off on the back of that one, because you mentioned the Tristana not being able to roam point. This is one of the things that actually got Dig an early lead, was the fact that they got to push aggressively against an Evelynn of all champions. Like, they killed the bottom outer turret because, so one, Morgana's a counterpick to Braum. Braum can no longer do anything in the lane as long as Kiwi Kid's playing properly. You block everything, he's just useless. So it lets basically Cog Morgana 2v1 Jinx, which is now an advantageous lane, despite being a Kog'Maw lane. So they took the turret down. They only got punished by one gank. They know Voiboy's not coming. You know, same things happen in the top lane as well. Zion Spartan's always pushing. And you talk about the champions spilling over and the fact that they're not microcosms. Well, here you go. You see 2 turrets going down just in the laning phase for Dignitas because of things like Tristana mid.
All right, well, there's clearly a ton to discuss regarding the new changes, things like that, and the way that these games will evolve. Luckily, we have a ton of games coming our way to watch that evolution. Guys, thank you for the input. We'll be back later. Now, there are still more explosive action coming your way. After a brief break, Evil Geniuses will be taking to the Rift to battle it out with Counter Logic Gaming in our second game of the day. The NA LCS continues after this.
Ready for it?
I mean, I'm ready for it. I don't think the people are ready for it.
Some dips. Some dips.
Wait, no. No. Don't do it, God.
Crumbs tries to get out on that one. Dominate goes in. The lockup from Shifter. Dominate's going hard on this, and he just gets dropped down. Special's now caught up in the Soul Shackle. Voiboy is able to take down Kiwi Kid, but the AD and the AP are still on the move. Cutie Pie tries to fire back. Kathy in surprise comes out. 7-5 in 40 minutes. Oh, they got Shifter. Is starting to move through. The red buff hits. He flashes. Oh, the rocket hits over the shoulder of Voiboy. They're going to keep going. Kiwi Kid's going down.